Hi everyone, I'm very excited to host Ian Curtis, development support engineer at Niantic. I got a chance to meet him at EWXR, and it was so inspiring to see what he's working on, what 8 Wall is up to. So I thought, and he has an architecture background, and I got to get him on the show. So thanks a lot for your time to do this.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to be here today and talk with you about architecture and the XR industry.
Awesome. So And if I were to ask, what are three highlights of your career till date? What would those be?
Uh, Project-based highlights or just highlights in general?
Highlights, yeah, in general.
Yeah, so I think some of my favorite experiences that I've had working at Niantic is having the ability to kind of have a creative mindset of building experiences. They really cultivate an environment that you can pretty much push limits on what you want to build. So just recently, we have been working on VPS, which is like a visual positioning system at Niantic, and I was able to work on the team and create creative experiences for that. So that was a really fun experience. We did a Dodie experience where you're able to walk a Dodie on the 8Wall website, interact with physics, and then you're able to also view that in AR. And then some of my first projects there early when I started working at 8Wall was some kind of configurator projects where you could see a car in AR and kind of change material properties of it to view it in different colors and also see the inside of it. So just being able to work on a large variety of different projects for sure has been one of my favorite highlights so far.
That's awesome. I know, I saw some glimpse of VPS at the conference as well as online, and that's very exciting technology. But before we go deeper, tell us about how you got interested in XR in first place from your undergrad journey. Where were you, and what were some pivotal points?
Yeah. So I've got a long story. Um, I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and studied architecture. And I decided to study architecture because growing up, I was an artist. I would draw all the time. I would sketch all the time, do a lot of pen and ink drawings, and was really interested in art. I also was excelled a bit at math, and I didn't really want to go 100% into mathematics or engineering, and I didn't want to lose that kind of artistic skill set that I really love. So I thought that architecture was a good marriage of kind of engineering and art together. And so starting my journey at Cal Poly, it was a 5-year program and really started to learn about design, 3D space, engineering, and kind of marrying all those together. And so during that, there's a friend of mine who actually had one of the first Oculus headsets. And so we kind of were experimenting with it. And this was probably, 7 years ago, where it was like, really pixelated screen. You can maybe see you could get a 3D model in there and kind of walk around, but it's nothing like it is today. So I started experimenting with that, and I was like, he kind of used it more so for some kind of gaming, and I was like, no, this would be awesome to accompany with some of my architecture projects. And so my 4th year, I started to kind of experiment with bringing that some of my architectural 3D models into the VR headsets. And so I would present that at some of my architectural presentations at the end of the semester. And at first, it took kind of warming up to get the professors to kind of use that technology, because it wasn't something that was very popular or used a lot. But I did find that it really gave a different view on the perspective of the environment or architectural design I was trying to present. And so that led me to my thesis project, which was a virtual reality research center based in Tokyo. And so for this, I just kind of went all out, made a full VR walkthrough of the building, which I presented on my thesis presentation. I created an augmented reality application on Unity, where you can use an iPad to see the building in sight. And so all this I didn't have any classes to take, so I just kind of really looking on YouTube, which I know a lot of us do to learn things. And so it's just a connection of Unity, Rhino, YouTube, to kind of a mashup to try to create some of these things. I also created a kind of augmented reality structural image. Essentially, it was a section of my building, and you're able to pull up an iPad to see kind of structural components in the section view that kind of extruded off the image target. And from there, I graduated and I worked at a company called BBTA. It's a firm, it's based in Chicago, but I started the office up here in the Bay Area. And we actually focused on office building design a lot for tech companies. And so I was a junior designer, and I would create some VR walkthroughs for some of the building designs. And so I would go into some of the presentations that the firm were giving, and I would kind of facilitate some of the VR walkthroughs of the buildings. And then comes COVID. This is kind of my full story. I'm going to hit all the points here. And unfortunately, the company laid off about 50% of the workforce. Again, we focused mainly on commercial office buildings. So as we know, COVID, nobody wants to build any more offices. And unfortunately, I was laid off. At the time, was for sure, a very tough part of my life. Getting laid off is not fun for anybody. But looking back, I think it was a blessing in disguise. And what I ended up kind of looking over and at a larger perspective of what my things I valued and what I really enjoyed doing was VR and AR. And so sitting there when I was unemployed, I was like, you know what? I really love AR and VR. This is something I'm passionate about. Every time I'm working on it, I love doing it. And this is something I want to pursue in the future. So again, started going that YouTube route, Unity, creating AR, VR apps. Took a XR Terra VR AR bootcamp, and that was about a 3-4 month bootcamp. And so I got some more projects in my portfolio, and after that, started applying to a bunch of jobs. And they weren't just architectural jobs. So I applied to some architectural jobs, but I hit the whole spectrum. I hit some AR software related companies. I hit some construction companies that are trying to use VR more so. I applied to 8th Wall, which I currently am now with Niantic, but we got acquired. And so interviewed with 8th Wall, and they hired me, and I've been happy ever since. So that is the kind of lengthy story of how I kind of moved path through kind of the architectural industry and the XR industry. So
That's awesome. And it's very rare to see like people from like architecture background like working in companies like Niantic, 8th Wall. Like it's very like well-known people who are doing some cutting edge work in the XR industry. So my question is, when you learned a lot of things self-taught on YouTube Unity videos, what were some things which you learned in the bootcamp, which as part of that structured learning, which you would recommend anyone listening here, that there are like pros and cons of like both paths?
Yeah. So what I learned in the bootcamp, I think primarily was just how to work together on it in the XR industry together. What I found is there were people from all different types of backgrounds in the bootcamp that I took. So there were engineers. We had someone who majored in drama and acting. We had an architect, myself. We had artists. We had so many different majors. And which was really cool is that we were put into teams to create some of these experiences, and you could kind of see whose skill sets fit where, and it really complemented everybody. So I was on a team with an engineer, an actor, my architect, myself, and then another computer science engineer. And so it's really cool the way we interacted. The actor and drama background person kind of painted the story of what the experience that we're going to create was going to be like. The engineer, a lot of the coding and the under development of the entire experience. And then myself, I found was kind of building and creating the 3D environment, the 3D scenes, and kind of the vision of the project. And so, again, what I found is that my architectural background was very valuable in this boot camp. It wasn't as if I was coming from architecture and I had to relearn everything for the XR industry. And that's what I think some people think is like, oh, you went from architecture to XR, was that tough relearning everything for a new industry? And it's actually not like that. Well, it's building on top of what you already know. So a lot of the skill sets you learn in architecture, again, like 3D spatial design, structural engineering, spatial concepts, human interaction with 3D space is used daily, every day for kind of XR related projects. And so I found that, my skill sets in architecture, I didn't, I was building on top of those. So I was a really integral part of the team already, even though, at the beginning of the boot camp, I did feel intimidated. So I'm like, I'm just an architect coming into this. I didn't have a computer science degree. I don't have an engineering degree, but I'm still an integral part. So is everybody else. And so that's kind of an overview of what I really learned during that time.
Got it. And so there are like multiple roles within the XR industry itself. An architect can take, like, one could be asset creation, UI UX, gameplay, or engineering itself in the Unity side. So how did you navigate it? Which area you are personally more interested?
Yes. So what I found, I really wanted to focus on kind of the design and the building of the experience. And that's what I did during my architectural at Cal Poly towards the end, was kind of like concepts and building these designs. And then again at the boot camp was kind of like building these designs and having a concept for these. And so what I found is, going in the future, I really wanted to apply and or work at a company where I was able to use a really creative mindset to build experiences. I love UI, I love UX design too, but I wanted to go kind of more from the 2D into kind of 3D space. And so I really wanted to kind of go in the 3D modeling area as well. And so my current role at Niantic as a developer support engineer is to help developers create amazing AR and VR experiences. And so what I love about this is that every day I get to interact with developers who have crazy ideas, like, hey, I want to build giant spaceship that flies around a building or something in AR. They're like, I have an idea of what I want to build, but like, how do I implement that? And so I work with them and try to find creative ways, like, hey, like, maybe you can model the spaceship like this, and have cool reflections on it to make it more interactable with the environment. Maybe you could use some of this code to make it fly in this specific direction. And maybe you want some planets in the air that could kind of get interactive as well. So it's just been kind of a position where you get to help people, you get to create experiences, and then I also do some kind of R&Ds where I'm experimenting with the product as well. So it's a position that I'm really excited about. And again, I'm using kind of the architectural background to kind of hit all those points.
It's great that you still get that creative freedom of developing that experience. And when you're talking about developers, are you referring to developers within Niantic or outside developer who are building on top of your SDK?
Yeah, so it's actually outside developers building with SDK. So it's people of all different backgrounds again. So I've worked with people who are designers, engineers. I've actually worked with an architect who's been using our product.
Whoa, okay.
So it's a really fun experience.
Got it. And How does a day or a week in your life look like? Like if you were to structure how much time you spend on meetings, workflows. Yeah.
Yeah, so usually daily, I will go through our Slack channel, which we have a large group, about 5,000 members of April developers, and I'll be able to help them answer questions specific to their projects. And a lot of these are 3D modeling related, coding related, design related, UI, UX related. So the variety of questions is massive. And so I think, again, that's kind of the bonus of having that architectural background. As architects, we have to know so much. It's like you're not, when you're designing a building, it's like, you're worrying about like sun shading, you're worrying about engineering, you're worrying about the function of the building, you're worrying about egress, you're worrying about entrances and facades and materials, and it's just it's so many different things. You can't just have one focus as an architect. Now, again, I'm always kind of relating my job back to architecture because it is related. But that's the same when I'm doing these, helping customers or developers, is they have all these different questions, and so I'll do that for a portion of the day. A lot of times, if we have new products coming out, I'll work on kind of experimenting with that to see cool and creative ways to use that. And so how this helps is that our developers sometimes don't know what to create if they aren't shown it, right? And so my job is to kind of curate or create experiences and experiment to showcase the ability of the software. And so by experimenting with this and showcasing this, let's say I create maybe I create that cool experience where a spaceship flies around and there's planets, and I'm able to show that to the developers, like, hey, you can create this. They're able to be like, oh wow, I didn't know I could do that. Like, I now see that I can do that, and they're going to create awesome and amazing things. So again, developer support, some R&D with the product, and then meeting with any bugs that happen that will fix. Yeah, that's about most of the day. So a lot of creative work, a
Nice.
lot of internal documentation too. So.
Yeah. So like, I just wanted to clarify, when you refer developer, like, is it like a software developer, experienced developer, or any generic person who is developing on top of your SDK? Like, who are you?
So it's any developer using A12 to develop an experience. So it could be a freelancer developer who's creating an experience. It could be a creative agency that is creating an experience. It could be, someone who just wants to create a fun experience for themselves. So it's a wide variety of people I'm talking to. But yeah, it's my reference developer. It's going to be people who are using the A12 software.
Got it. So like, the one of the like interesting like role or aspect you have is, how do you bridge what's out there with the SDK, what's the developer need, and find the creative solution to make that happen. So it's quite interesting.
Oh yeah, that is, it is quite interesting. And so just to clarify, Lightship Niantic is an SDK that you can plug into Unity, and Eighth Wall is a bit separate. It's a web-based cloud editor, so you don't need to use Unity to build with Eighth Wall. So it is an SDK at all. So you use your cloud editor to create the experiences, and you can host them via Eighth Wall and share them all through the web, which is really cool. So you don't need to use like a 3D engine like Unity or Unreal to build it. You just build it in the cloud editor using A-Frame, which is a 3D framework, and you're able to share it. So what's really cool too about Eighth Wall, big proponent of Eighth Wall, love it, is that you're able to share it via the web, and so you don't have to post it onto the App Store. and have company approve it to get it out. It's just instant approval, and we're ready to go. So both are awesome softwares. Eighth Wall and the Lightship SDK are both. I've used both, and they're both amazing softwares. And I hope more people use them. And if you need any questions on how to build with them, reach out all the time. So, and I'm always happy to help create a lot of good experiences. So.
That's incredible. Like I can attest because like a few weeks ago, I taught a workshop about AR NFT in an art gallery in Chicago, and I used Eighth Wall, and like there were so many good templates that we were able to customize and build interesting solutions on top of it.
Yeah, and I'll know real quick. I forgot to say, like a lot of that I do as well is build the templates, which we do because it's easy for developers or creators like yourself to clone those and start off. And the idea of that is that you don't have to start from scratch, just a blank slate. It's kind of, you can be like, oh, if I have an image target experience I want to build, I can clone that. If I have a real-time reflections, I can clone that one, and you can kind of combine them as well. So
that's awesome. So since you are on the show and you are the perfect person to ask this question, what do you think how VPS is gonna affect the architectural real estate industry? Do you have like any speculative thoughts?
Yeah, so I can't talk too much about the future of VPS, but I can kind of throw some ideas out there. I do think that augmented reality will for sure help the architectural industry in the future. I've already seen this in a lot of ways. At my past company, BDTA, we built an app where we're able to see a building in augmented reality. I know that's a lot of companies are doing this. I know Shop Architects does this a lot as well. And so just being able to virtually see the building in space is a huge thing for the architectural industry, in my opinion. And not only architectural, but in a lot of different industries. Being able to visually see that, and I saw this when I would present my architectural projects in school, is that showing somebody visually rather than a photo is so much immersive, and it's so much easier for them to understand. And again, I think us as architects, we know and we understand 3D space, but a lot of people don't see it like we do. For us, we look at a building render and we're like, okay, I can see that it's this tall. Like I can see the entrance is there. I can kind of visualize the space. Same when we see plans. But a lot of people, they may see a plan or a render, and they just what is this? Is this building? It's a plan. Like, is this just a flat building? It's like, they just can't conceptualize it. And so I think having that technology in the future, let's say you have a blank parking lot that's going to be some design in the future, and you're able to have somebody walk through that. Like it's going to really change their perception. And at my past one too, we saw where we would show people and they'd be like, hey, this atrium is awesome, but it's a little bit too small. Now that I'm in the space, I'm thinking maybe we extend that a little bit larger. And so, once it's built and you put all the money in there, and then you figure out, hey, this atrium isn't the right size, good luck. I don't know if you can fix it. So I think the fact that you're able to iterate more and visualize it, not only will you save money, but I think more importantly than that is that you're going to be able to create better spaces and architecture for people. And that's really what's important, is that these technologies offer a way for us to excel and create better environments for ourselves. And that's what I really want to see in the future is better architecture, better design, better functions. As I think that's something that we need to work on as human beings as well. So hopefully that technology works for the better for us. And I do see it. Yeah, a lot of it.
I see. And I just thought there might be few people watching or listening this might not know what is VPS. So if you can like briefly summarize it
Yeah.
for them. Yeah.
So VPS is a virtual positioning system, and it was announced at a Lightship Summit just a little bit ago, a developer summit. And so it was announced that it was being run to April as well. So essentially what you can do, and you can for sure look on the internet for the announcements, but you can position augmented reality experiences in certain areas. So, and the blog, it kind of talks about that, let's say you're in a really big public area and there's a statue there or something. What you can do is open up your phone, and in the future, with the AR glasses, just like this, one of most experiences is that you're able to look at it and open your phone and see it interact with the space there. So you can have it like fluid behind the statue. So it's kind of a cool technology. So yeah, for sure, look it up on the blog post. They have some more information about it, but it's for sure awesome.
Got it. And I was wondering, like, if any person or in the technology group of any architecture or real estate firm watching this, are you guys open for like use case collaboration? If yes, how should that person coordinate with you guys?
Yeah, and you're saying use case with kind of our AR tech with architectural industry. Yeah, so you can certainly reach out to Niantic or myself, and we'll be happy to connect you. We have a big partners team, and these are people who are kind of A+ certified developer creative studios, and so they're all over the world. And you can reach out to us. We're even connected with them, and you can have them build your experience. They've built hundreds of A+ experiences, and so they're really good at what they do. Or can help you build your own if you like. And so yeah, I've worked with some architects personally who have, and students too, who are showcasing their buildings in AR. And so I'll show them some other example projects that you've used as well, and they'll be able to bring in a 3D model and then showcase that pretty fairly easily. And that's another thing I'd like to touch on is that you don't, what I think can scare people sometimes is the coding aspect. And I just want to touch on that. It's like, I'm our architect, and like, am I super good at coding? No. Like, do I know how to do it? Yes. And was it hard to learn? It was, it was kind of hard to learn at the beginning, but you get used to it. And it's like, do I think it was harder to learn than architecture per se? No. I think everything was hard in its own way. And so I do want to touch on that people shouldn't be intimidated if they don't have a computer science degree or something to understand code. And I use coding as kind of a component to those experiences. It's not something that I'm using 100% every day. I kind of use it as a tool to create experiences. So just wanted to touch on that note real quick. But yeah, we work with architects to showcase their buildings a lot, and I think it's a really awesome way to visualize the building space.
Awesome. And it's great that you mentioned that, because my next question is like, a lot of people have this like they overestimate that they are not capable enough to apply for this XR job, and these are like big companies that are competing with a lot of people. So like, what are some tips you can share for getting a job? How was the interview structure? How can you stand out?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. For sure, something I wanted to touch on. So what I've always, like, my main thing, and this is something I focused on through all college, my previous firm, and then when I was laid off, is something I really focused on with my portfolio, especially if you want to go into kind of the design realm in the XR industry. That portfolio is a must-have. And so what I did is like document everything, like everything you create. Even some projects, that I wasn't even proud of, but I learned. I documented it. So I would take videos of myself, kind of explaining my process of the project. I would take pictures, I'd document it, and a lot of it, my current portfolio is maybe only like 10-20% of what I actually did. But you just need to document everything and then able to showcase it. And then another thing is like the way you showcase it on your portfolio is super important. I've seen amazing projects that just weren't delivered or showcased very well on the user's portfolio, and so it's a bummer because in some cases they think the project was extremely well, but it just wasn't documented well or explained well. So if you can't understand it, looking at the portfolio, then it's just in the end it's not going to be a good project, even if it's a beautiful XR app or architectural design. So I think a portfolio is for sure a main thing to go through that. And so secondly, I went through a lot of interviews, and you will be asked a lot of different questions that I think just having a really open mind and kind of using again that architectural background to answer kind of all these different questions.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Also, like if anybody wants to take a look at my portfolio, it's iancurtisdesign.com, and it's just just something if you want to look at it. And the thing is, there's a website called, I think, Cofolios, if I'm correct. I might look that up real quick here. But it was a website where they would post student portfolios, and that's something I really looked at. Sorry, I'm going to put this up here. Yeah, it's called cofolios.com. And so that was a website that posts people's portfolios. And I think, if you're building your own, I mean, you need to learn from other people. That's what I really did. At the beginning, I built my portfolio. I kind of just wanted it to be my style. Like, I didn't look at anybody else's, but I think it's important to, in any way, is to look at others. And I learned a lot from looking at other people's portfolios. I wrote down ways that I thought were positive ways they would showcase stuff, and then negative ways, and kind of cultivate that to build my own. So portfolio is a really good place. And then my website is iancurtisdesign.myportfolio.com.
actually, I got it.
Yeah. So I have a lot of projects on here. A12 related projects, some just personal projects. I have my thesis project there. And then I have some apps I built in my old firm too. So, and a lot of this was easily showcasing my projects. A lot of things I would put on there is kind of like the roles that I would take in the projects, kind of the project timeline. And so this way, someone's during my interview, it's really easy for people to see what projects I worked on, how I implemented on the team. And then a great way in AR too is to use GIFs, because photo of AR is great, but really AR is all about movement and visually seeing. So here, this is a portal project I worked on, and so this is kind of showing the opening of that portal. And again, it's just a quick flip, but just having that quick flip, you can really visualize like, oh, this is cool. This is a portal that's opening in AR space. And if this was just a photo, it wouldn't be as impactful. So a nice thing I like to do is just have a little snippet about the experience as well. I don't think you need to write a 2 or 3 page paper. People will ask more about it if they want, but just kind of getting them intrigued about it with like a couple of sentences is really important. So I cannot count the amount of hours I spent on this. Getting a base portfolio up is pretty quick, but I'm a kind of a perfectionist, so it's like I'm like moving words over like a little centimeters. This one's a cool one too. This was a project I built at BBT. It was a pamphlet that showcased some of our buildings, and it was a 25-year celebratory pamphlet for the architectural firm.
Yeah, like to your earlier point, like uh, having just enough text and to communicate the idea with visuals to, oh,
Yeah,
this is interactive. Nice.
yeah. This is a little like future of what I thought, some future architecture would look like. This was in the pamphlet as well. But yeah, this is imported from Sketchfab, so you can embed it into your website. It's cool.
Mhm.
So yeah, this project was fun because I did some graphic design, app building, and
Yeah.
again, these are all skill sets I learned from architecture. It's graphic design is something I use it
Mhm.
all the time, and I'm placing my board to showcase my project. What text to use. It's, you use graphic design, spatial thinking, 3D modeling. Just can't touch on that enough. That you use so many different things.
But like when you were applying for Niantic, like you would have like 2-3 projects before, right? Or
Yeah. So if you actually go up to the top and you go up a little further, if you click on playground to the right there, so these are a lot of my past projects. So I had a lot of these on here that were not my Niantic projects.
uh,
And so some of these, if you go to that, like some of these were XR projects. If you click on the left of that one, so there's like a furniture assembly app, and then the left of that was your beanbag toss that I made in my XR bootcamp. So those I showcased. And then some of these are just school projects, and then also my past architecture projects. And then some of them are just art projects that I just do for fun.
like this really shows the spatial quality, and that is the recruiter like looking for how. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, this was when I studied abroad in Tokyo, like that interactive.
And do you have like similar like, so in tech they have one HR interview, technical interview, written test, and then final interview, like how, so here like you apply on the website and then you get a call?
Yeah, so every company's different on their kind of interview process. I can't touch specifically on my Niantic, but I will say that in general, you'll apply to the company. I applied to a bunch of companies. So again, if you apply and you get denied, don't worry about it. It's going to happen. They're getting so many applicants. So, I just kept applying, and you'll get an email back usually or a phone call, and that initial recruiter will set up phone interviews. And so depending on the company, they're all different, but sometimes you'll have technical interviews. If you're going more of an engineering route role, if you're having a UI UX or designer role, you're going to do a presentation. A lot of those are going to be portfolio based. And so that, again, I went into a more creative role. And so having my portfolio website is a really easy way rather than having a PowerPoint. This is really kind of an organic way where you can present your projects during those interviews. And so what I'd say you probably would do is maybe have some of your XR projects or your architectural projects, and you'll kind of go through the thinking process and go the design process of those projects and why you made those decisions. If it's an architectural project, why the building shape, the functions, all the research that went into it to create that experience. If it's an XR, AR, VR app, maybe some of your UX research and how people interact with it, some of the 3D modeling, some of the coding, and what I really I think is important during these interviews is to kind of paint a picture of the story. So it's not just you're reading off a list and you're like, yeah, I did this and this and this. I think it's really impactful if you're explaining a story of, I created this app because I wanted to showcase this. And so, just example, one of my projects, like that interactive tea museum in Tokyo, when I presented it as I was like, this is a story. The idea of the museum is that people are learning about tea, but they're also like creating their tea. And so this building has a conveyor belt that goes through it, and the user follows that conveyor belt as they learn. And so it's kind of a flowing story throughout the entire book. And so that's what I try to do when I'm documenting these projects, is to kind of see that linear line of that research, design, storytelling, and try to get a really impactful way to showcase those.
Right. Yeah. And so, like, if I were to conclude, make a good portfolio, do projects in XR, apply to as many firms, and just rock the interview.
What was that again? Sorry.
Yeah, like I was just like listing down, like if one were looking, one has to develop that XR job portfolio, like that really helps in getting a job, and like listing out what are the actionable items for someone to get a job in this space. So
yeah, I can think about things. So I would say, if again, it depends what position you're going into. I'll just kind of touch on my experience, kind of going into kind of more of a creative XR role, is that you're going to want to showcase a large variety of skill sets. So, you're not going to want to just, if you're, create a Unity app or something, or an eighth wall app, or a Niantic app, you want to showcase that, you're not just doing coding. You don't want to go into coding only. If you're trying to go to creative, if you're doing engineering, yes, but you want to say, touch a little bit on the coding of the project and say, I did this to, do this interaction. And I don't think it needs to be, you're not building an AI app that can create images like Volley. You're just doing a line or two of code that, you touch something and it turns red. Just, that you have a concept of code. You don't need something really complicated. So maybe a little bit of that engineering part, and then two, you may have some of my projects, I'll have initial sketches to kind of show, they're just messy. Are they nice sketches? No, but I put them on there because they kind of showcase my initial thinking and design process. Three, I'll have in some cases, kind of 3D modeling. I like to do a lot of 3D modeling, so I'll 3D model some of the assets for some of my projects. So I'll show kind of the process behind that. And then kind of the storytelling, or why I built the experience, is really important. I think having research behind whatever you're building is important. So if you have any UI, UX design, or research, to incorporate that. And then I think with those, we have code, design, any research, and bring those together into a single story.
And what was the other website you mentioned for portfolios?
Yeah, so it's COFOLIOS.com. Portfolios.
Okay.
There you go. And this is a really awesome website. This is more so for like UI, UX designers, but if you click on any of the websites, I mean, they're beautifully done. Click on a particular portfolio. Maybe, some of them may not still be updated, but usually they are.
Okay, we have it.
So it's just really cool. Everybody has kind of their own design and kind of theme to their websites. And so, I've looked at this one. It's beautifully done portfolio. And so we'll kind of showcase, again, kind of storyline to this project. And so I looked at a bunch of different portfolios, not on this website, on this website, but a lot of different ones, just to kind of better understand how best to build these. And so again, these, having really kind of these short snippets of showcasing these projects, really nicely visually done.
Awesome. Definitely, I'll also add it in the show notes. I'm curious to know how a career trajectory for a person in your role looks like.
What's the question again?
How does like a career trajectory as you move senior in your role looks like?
Yeah, so I'd really love to focus on kind of our R&D side. my job, being able to experiment with the software and the product was a really fun way for me. But I also, again, I want to continue those relationships with the developer community. So yeah, if I go more senior, I think just having more of a say or perspective in how we're going to use that software to help developers. I don't really see it, and personally, I don't want it to change. I don't want to I don't want to be a manager. I don't want to manage people or manage time per se. I just want to make cool things in AR, and however way I can do that, I'm excited for. So I think maybe getting a team that I can help with to build cooler experiences is the way that I see myself in the future, and just making A-Wall a better product for everybody, making it more available for everybody, and just creating really cool experiences. I have a Twitter too that I do a lot of experimental experiences. So if you ever go to my Twitter, XR Architects, so I'm just throwing out all my socials right now. If you go to my Twitter, XR Architects, I have a bunch of experiments, and I do these. I used to do them daily. I've kind of taken a break since I've been moving, but I experiment with 3D modeling, physics, AR, Dolly, VR. So it's like I do a bunch of stuff that I post on there. This recent one is like kind of bringing Dolly into.
Oh, that's cool.
And so if you go down, actually, the one below this is awesome. Not below this one more, sorry. So if you click on that first image up there, the diagram. So this was my VR research center, my thesis project. And so I took this into Dolly. If you go to the next image, you can create variations. So this created a variation of the architectural building. I thought this was pretty crazy that, this Dolly variated this, isometric view of my design in 10 seconds. And these were some of the outputs that it gave. And so just separate topic, but it's crazy that the ways you can use Dolly to kind of quickly conceptualize designs and architecture. So it kind of popped out these designs alongside code. I remember in architecture, I would do multiple iterations of modeling to kind of design the building, but just being able to see this was really cool. And that one was just, I was experimenting. That first image is my render, and then gave out different outputs of my thesis architectural render. So if you go to the first one. Yes, the first one, that's a 3D render I did of my thesis projects, and then I put in the Dolly and it gave out these other outputs. It's interesting technology for sure.
So yeah, you really get excitement by making and testing this new technologies, interesting use case that drives you.
Exactly. And so, in school, in architecture school, they tell you, at least at Cal Poly, they say, build and design whatever you want. Like the sky's the limit. And then when you get into the architectural industry, it's like, that limit gets really small. It's like I'm trying to and I want to create crazy cool things. But I found, when I was working as an architect, and all firms are different, but just my firm, I just felt like I wasn't being able to create as much as I wanted to. I felt like I was kind of closed. And so, it laid off, really sad part, but it led me to Eighth Wall, and I couldn't be happier. Eighth Wall allows me to create whatever I want and create awesome, amazing augmented reality experiences. And they gave me a chance, and they gave me the ability to do that, and super thankful, and I'm super happy every day to go in and to be able to create some of these things. And then not only create cool things, but to help people create these awesome experiences as well. That's what I really like to enjoy. So that's kind of what makes me want to build these. It's like I build these to showcase the technology of A4 Niantic, and then show this to other people who are using the software that you can build things like this. and then help them build those experiences. So internally as well, I'm missing all the things that I do internally. I also will do I'll do showcases on how to create these experiences. So I have some of those projects that I'll show to you, but I have videos on YouTube that go over kind of the steps to create some of the experiences, so some tutorials.
Oh, that's awesome. I should. Is it listed here? Oh no.
Go to YouTube, and you just type in 8th wall.
Oh, you have a tutorials on 8-wall?
Yeah. So go to 8th wall, and they'll just be. We have a bunch of tutorials there. And so, yeah, if you go to the second one there, or the first one too, but these were fun little short clips. So I just it's a really simple implementation, but I kind of showcase how to create a cool animation like that, and it's kind of using in this specific tutorial is using Blender, creating a cool animation, bringing it in 8th wall. We have a bunch of 8th wall tutorials as well that are how to create image target experiences, how to create slam-based experiences. So yeah, if you ever want to learn more about 8th wall, our YouTube channel is a really awesome area. And this one I specifically, these are kind of more short form tutorials. So this one I try to make 3 minutes because I know people don't want to look at tutorials for a long time. But essentially, yeah, you'll see here just kind of how to create this cool cell fracture effect. And then at the end, you literally do one line of code and you can bring this into 8th wall. So the idea behind some of these tutorials is to showcase that you don't need a lot of coding to create some of these experiences. And that's really what I want to tell people too, is like, don't be intimidated by code. It's more so of a tool. It's not something to be scared of. And as architects, we're kind of a 3D modeling background, and it's really easy. I'm going to clone this project here, change like 1 or 2 lines of code, and then I'm going to have this cool cell fracture animation. So here we go. Just bring that in and then change the code, and you have a cool project. And then like these are some of the projects that you were able to clone from when you were creating. So that's what we try to cultivate too. It's a lot of simple projects that are easy to clone and build. And then this is the 8th wall cloud editor. So you're not going to be using Unity or Unreal Engine or something. You can just build everything right there in the cloud editor. It's really cool since they're all the same. So,
yeah, that's awesome, man. Like this reminds me like there are like developer relations role in tech world. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a developer relations role too. The naming is always kind of different, whatever company, but it's essentially for sure developer relations. I work with my developers and community all the time.
Okay. Yeah. So earlier when I asked, like I was trying to correlate, okay, for like if you are a development relation, then you become a senior developer, then you become a product manager. Like what are the different roles you might jump in a typical career like yours?
Yeah, so I guess next steps could be a developer relations like manager of some sorts. I for sure want to continue that, and then also you have the research and design. So maybe go on an R&D team where I'm just researching and designing cool ways to do that. And you can see like my Twitter was like I just do fun experiments just to see. And I'm like, oh, maybe I can have a robot kickboxing thing and it explodes. Like, how does that look? So yeah, I think those are things I for sure want to focus on moving forward. And whatever job role that entails, I don't really see myself, following a label per se, but more so, following something that whatever I enjoy doing and whatever that job role title is, so be it. I really just want to continue building cool stuff, and helping people build cool stuff.
Yeah, I could totally see from your Twitter that you are enjoying what you're doing like every day with cool experiments. That's amazing.
That's what I hope everybody else does too. It's like, once you find what you're passionate about, it's not going to be like work. It's, it's something I'm passionate about. I love what I'm doing, and it's not work to me. It's just my life. It's it's like breathing. I just like to build, design, and help people. So
Yeah. What is your piece of advice to like people who are in their 20s looking to make a switch or are gonna pursue
yeah,
this path?
yeah, I think take a break. I know life is busy. Put out things that you're passionate about, that you love doing, and then just go for it. And I know it's easier said than done. I was laid off. It was a very sad part. Again, blessing in disguise. But looking back, if I was never laid off, I would still be working at my old architecture firm, which was a good firm. I'm, nothing against it, but I love what I'm doing now way more. And if I hadn't have been forced to make that step, I would have never made this jump. And so, luckily, I got forced to make that jump. But I think it's tough sometimes to maybe make a leap into a different industry. And I just want to say to people out there, don't be intimidated. I think it can be intimidating to make that jump and say, hey, like I'm an architect, I don't belong in the XR industry. It's like, no, 100% you belong wherever you want to belong. And it's you are so much skill sets, so many things you learn in architecture school that can be used in any industry. So I think, find what you're passionate about and just do it.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Do you think like there is like AR metaverse coming?
Oh yeah.
Oh
I
yeah.
think sure. Yes, there's going to be a collaboration of AR, VR, like everything. In my opinion, I think is going to kind of converge into one, and I think that's how it should be. I think having people AR, VR, XR all in one space is going to be something that I'm excited to see in the future. We've already kind of seen it kind of cultivate and build, and we kind of have an idea what it's going to be. I think it's going to be something awesome and amazing, and us as creators and developers are the ones building it. So I'm excited for what it will be. Hopefully, we'll see it.
Yeah. If you were asked to teach a course in the university, what would that be and what would be the main course content?
It's a great question. I think it would be kind of connection of kind of architecture and XR and kind of bridging kind of those design ideas to help people understand that there's a lot of similarities and maybe help them create or build an AR experience themselves. That's what I find is when I've done some of these past tutorials, and I've actually done some of them live where I teach people, and I just love these seconds when they build the model, whatever, bring it into A12, create and the experience, and then they see it on their phone for the first time, and they're like, wow, I built that. And I was like, yeah, you built that. And it's not as hard as you think it is. So I think just showcasing architecture, XR, and then a quick tutorial for people to build their own experience.
Yeah, it gives the feeling of empowering people. Like DALI empowers creativity, like with like this quick template, it's empowering AR creativity.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm gonna wrap up the interview with a rapid fire. So you'll have like 10 seconds and you gotta make it very brief.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, so which cities are in your travel bucket list?
We have Paris, Warsaw, Poland, and Mexico City, Mexico.
Who's your role model?
My role model, I'm going to say, since I was a little kid, Messi. I love soccer, and the guy's amazing. So, in a lot of different ways.
Your favorite movie?
It's going to be Interstellar.
Uh,
Or Player Me. I love that movie as well.
okay. Is there any book which made a big impact in your life?
I read The Alchemist. I read when I was younger, and that was a really interesting book.
What's your favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurants is one called the Euro Place here in San Francisco. It's a Mediterranean restaurant. Go there. So good. I get it weekly.
What is one thing which most people don't know about you, but would be surprised if they get to know you?
Um, every night I try to build something on an AR experience, an art piece. And I do it every night, and a lot of them I don't show or share. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you believe in work-life balance?
Believe in what?
Do you believe in work-life balance?
Oh yeah. Unless you love what you do so much, it's kind of your life, which I see in some cases. Yes, 100%. I believe in work-life balance. I think it's really important that you're balancing a lot of things in your life.
Yeah. And if you have unlimited time and resources, what is one thing would you like to do when you wake up tomorrow morning?
I think would be to create and cultivate a place where people can learn XR, build experiences, as you said, make them better understand and give them the opportunity to do that. So I think just teaching people more about how to create.
Yeah. And what are your hobbies?
So my hobbies, I play soccer a lot, I bike a lot, I do a lot of kind of digital arts as a hobby, and then I just create AR experiences, just random stuff that comes to my mind. I'll just write it down every day and I'll try to like build it. So those are a lot of things I like to do.
And lastly, is there anything which we didn't cover in this interview and you'd like to end on that note?
I think we hit everything, but I do want to reiterate, do what you love and take the step. Don't, wait to get laid off like me. And if you do, blessing in disguise. I think finding something you love and just doing it every day a little bit, and you'll find yourself in a place you'll really enjoy in the future.
That's awesome. It was an incredible interview, Ian, and thanks a lot for sharing your journey, thoughts. It really helps us
So
to.
much. So happy to have met you at AWU, and you've been awesome this entire time, and happy to come on in the future again, maybe. So thank you so much.
Have a great weekend and see you soon.
I'm gonna go outside and bike. So thank you.